Mayfair save this over five.
Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside my co-pilot, Matt O'Leary. We're going to have Green Bean with us in about an hour or so you get to hear some of our thoughts. Then we'll get the Green Bean's take on everything. Guys, if you notice down below in the corner, MyBookieAG is going to be our sponsor for the season, this NFL season. Anyone who uses MyBookieAG and uses promo code JT receives a 100% bonus match up to $1,000. Use promo code JT, bet with me, win some money. MyBookieAG, promo code JT, double your money today. MyBookieAG, promo code JT. Matt, I just want to end the suffering. I'm sick of all this crap. The Jets look like garbage week in and week out. Matt, I need you to talk me off the ledge. How you feeling tonight?
I'm not the guy to do it because I'm really sad, Ryan. This has been a brutal start to this season. I understand the Gase especially wants you to know that they played 3 great defenses in a row, but this is it's a train wreck. It's worse than we all expected it to be. I know I had them at 7-9 this year. I think you had them around the same, maybe 8-8, somewhere in that boat. But I think we're lucky if we get even half of that at this point. Like, this might legitimately be a 3-13 team.
I'll be honest, I'm struggling to find 3 games we can win. I'm looking at Denver this week, an injured team on short rest. That's something the Jets might be able to win. And then I'm looking at maybe the Miami games and possibly the Brown game later on in the year as the only games the Jets are probably going to be competitive in. I'm with you. I'm nervous about this. It's not the Jets I expected to see at all. So I guess we'll start there. Let's. What were your initial thoughts of the game? You know, how it started. We had the pick six. Sam marching down the field. What was your thoughts? Walk me through what you were thinking during the game.
So the first drive obviously was unsettling with the interception. A couple things that I noticed. One, it was a bad throw. There's no getting around that. I believe it was Lawrence Cager who he was throwing to.
Correct.
He did not make much of an effort to get back to that ball. This is like, I would say it's 85 Sam, 15% the wide receiver. I'm pretty sure it was Cager though. And then obviously getting in a whole 7-0, but they responded right away. That second drive was probably definitely their best drive of the season, I'll say. And the touchdown pass was, I don't know, a top 5 play of Sam Darnold's career so far, easily.
Yeah, the way he escaped all that pressure was nothing short of phenomenal. And I thought the way the offense was called during that whole drive might have been Adam Gase's best play calling series of the season. It was impressive the way they got the ball moved down the field. There was one thing they pointed out with Sam when he did that 6-yard run or 7-yard run off to the side where he got the first down. They were circling Herndon, and they were like, oh, it's right on that far side. He's like running up the seam or run up the sideline. If Sam picks his head up, he could have had a long pass there. But I like what we saw out of Sam. His pocket presence is elite. I don't care what anyone else says about the rest of his game. He is very impressive in the pocket. Now, the decision-making when he starts making the throws, little suspect, and I think that's somewhere where we're going to be very concerned. He had 3 interceptions on the night, 2 of which return for touchdowns, and then you also have the safety that happened late in the game. Was it a tale of 2 different halves, or what happened? Why did the Jets just seem to kind of go off the rails after that first drive?
Yeah, I really wish I had a good answer for you. I thought, like you said, Adam Gase's by far the best drive of the season. He had 2 running backs in the backfield, which we've been yelling and screaming about forever. He had Sam rolling out. Like, these were all positive steps in the right direction. And then I think once they started to get down, he wanted to go back to what he likes to do, and which is run the ball in the A gap, very conservative, dump passes, screens to Kalen Ballage, because you just have to get Kalen Ballage the football. It's something. It really is something. I don't know. I don't have an explanation why they got away from that game plan. They definitely should have thrown the ball more in the second half. I understand Sam was struggling. The end zone interception can happen. That's really bad. A red zone interception like that, and the third one, excuse me, that was returned for the second pick six. That also looked like a miscommunication between Sam and the wide receivers. I don't know if Barrios ran the wrong route or it was Hogan going to the outside. It just looked really ugly. Um, but at the same time, I don't want to pull the plug on Sam just yet. I really think we deserve to see Sam Darnold with somebody else, even if it's Jim Bob Cooter, for the last 12 games of this year before we put a final stamp that, okay, we are taking a quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall as well, and it's a hard thing to have a discussion about because I am all in on Sam. Like I believe in Sam, but if the Jets are going to wind up with a first or second pick, and you're going to have an opportunity to take Fields or Lawrence or whoever you deem to be your top quarterback at the top of this draft, you got to have an answer on Sam for the very minimum. Even if after this game, I think Gase is probably gone after the Bronco game,
Great.
and if you have from what is it, week 5 through week 17 as an evaluation with Jim Bob Cooter and Sam, if Sam shows that he's a capable quarterback and there's upside there, and you're like, oh, he's doing better without Gase. He's getting Mims back, he's getting Perriman back, he's getting Crowder back, Bell comes back, and then he's got a few more weapons that complement him, then it kind of allows you to do one of two things. You could trade Sam and have more value because he's performing better, or he's not the guy. You determine the decision making is not there to be an elite quarterback, and you at least know you're going for the quarterback heading into the draft. And I'm with you. I don't want to give up on Sam. I think if the Jets do trade him, I'm still going to be a fan of him. I would hope he goes to like the Saints or something like that. I don't really want to see him with Pittsburgh, but him in whatever his role is, if it's not with the Jets, I think he can still be a successful quarterback. The issue I think that a lot of Jet fans are dealing with right now, I know there's a large contingent of people that are like, hey, let's get rid of Sam. He's the problem. But then there's another contingent that believes in Sam. It's just the rookie contract's coming to an end. He's got one more year of cheap rookie contract in that fourth year, and then you have the fifth-year option. And at this point, with what we're seeing out of him, you're not going to be paying him $25 million on that fifth-year option. So the Jets would probably look to decline that, at least at this point. And then you have to determine, are you able to win with a quarterback on that $25 million deal? Like, is Sam the type of quarterback that you can win on that deal with? Or do you need that rookie contract to try and win a Super Bowl? So someone like a Fields or a Lawrence or something like that. I think that's where a lot of fans are sort of torn up, either way.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much spot on with what you said. It's tough. It's still, in my eyes, tough to evaluate Sam Darnold because of the circumstances around him. And yeah, the decision making has to get better. He'll be the first one to tell you that. I can tell you that. But when you look at who's been calling the plays the last 2 years, you look at the pieces around him. We're down to wide receiver 6, 7, and the corpse of Chris Hogan. You have Frank Gore, who's a fossil, and Kalen Ballage, who realistically the Dolphins wanted no part of him. The Jets were going to give him a draft pick for him and then pick them up off waivers. But I mean, these guys aren't, outside of maybe Gore, aren't or shouldn't be on NFL rosters, which is really sad. And I don't know. I don't think it's been good for the Jets how they built around Sam Darnold is my biggest issue. When you had McCagnon after taking him in 2018, you could have signed a wide receiver each of the last 2 years, but you really didn't, and you let Robbie Anderson go for a relatively low cost, and they had a really good chemistry and good connection there. I just think that they have pretty much done everything they could to make life as hard on Sam Darnold as possible, and this is the results that we're seeing.
Now, do you believe Sam Darnold is Joe Douglas's guy? When Douglas took the job, do you think, I'm sure there was probably hope for Sam Darnold, but do you think there's anything to the little bit of a rumor that we sort of started talking about last week with Douglas wanting his own guys? He wants his own head coach. He wants his own quarterback. Did he, in a way, sabotage this season where he didn't go out and get the wide receivers? He didn't spend more money because he wanted to, yes, roll it over into next season, but if he spends money and we wind up getting 6, 7 wins, something like that, he might wind up being stuck with Gase, who he may or may not want to be with, and getting a middling draft pick and not getting the quarterback he wants. Do you think there's anything in Douglas's mind in wanting to sort of reset his way as opposed to what he inherited?
I definitely see that side that you're bringing up, but to me, I think Sam Darnold is one of the reasons why Joe Douglas came here. I don't think it was because of Adam Gase. I don't think it was because of Jamal Adams. I think he saw an opportunity to build around the 22-year-old quarterback. He's now 23. It looks like he's regressing, but I think if you pull the plug of the coordinator and head coach after 4 weeks, and then you have another 12 games to evaluate, I mean, would we be stunned if Sam turned it around in the second half? I don't think so. We saw him do it last year. He played really well down the stretch. And I think he played to something like a 95 passer rating in his last 8 games. Like, this kid can play. It's just a matter of if he can do it consistently enough. And right now that hasn't been the case, but I think we need the full 16-game season to determine that instead of just 3 games to start off the season.
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall as well. Travel Junkie, thank you so much for becoming the newest member of the Jets Talk channel. If you guys do want to join the channel, I do have a few membership tiers down below if you want to see the channel kind of grow and whatnot. Travel Junkie is our newest member of the economy class. So thank you for flying with me. It really means a lot. Yeah, when you talk about the way this team and roster was built, it just it reeks of like the tail end of Sanchez's career was. Like, not getting wide receivers. The offensive line went to shambles. So Mark had the team around him to start those first 2 years. Sam came in without a team. Nothing at all. And I don't know. Here's where I'm torn, because if the Jets get the first pick, there's so much value. Like, the Jets could get like 2 first-round picks, probably 2 second-round picks for that number 1 overall pick, if they think Sam's the guy. Because if they think Sam's the guy, you have to be able to build around him and trade that number 1 pick. I think Lawrence has to be the pick at 1, whether it's the Jets making it or we trade out and give it to someone else. I think he's too valuable of a player. And think about how this roster could be rebuilt if we had all of a sudden 3 first-round picks this year and 3 first-round picks next year and 2 second-round picks this year to go along with, the 3 third-round picks. There's a lot of potential here for the Jets to add a lot of young talent to really help Sam out. Whereas, the I don't know if it's a smart move or whatever. Just take Lawrence. He's sitting there for you. You don't have to trade up. And then you still surround him with the other first-round picks you have. And, I mean, the Jets have a war chest. They have probably more picks than I think anyone, even more than the Jags, if I'm not mistaken, or at least right around the same amount of picks. So we have enough to surround a quarterback with talent, whether it's Sam and we get the excess with the Trevor Lawrence compensation, or it's Trevor Lawrence and we use the rest of the war chest on that. Do you think what are your thoughts on I guess the state of the roster?
See, that's my issue. I don't know if this team is a quarterback away from being competitive. Like, I don't think if you put Trevor Lawrence in this situation, if he's playing that much better. That's nothing against Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't want this to be construed as I don't think he's going to be good in the NFL. That's not the case. I think he can be a very good quarterback in this league. But the same things that are being said about Trevor Lawrence now were being said about Sam 2.5 years ago. So I really don't know if you want to throw in the towel just yet. And if you do decide to do that, you have to construct your roster a whole heck of a lot better than you did the last 3 years. Because if you're pretty much going to say, okay, we'll invest in the quarterback at 1, we'll take Trevor Lawrence, we'll trade Darnold. Let's say if he plays bad enough to get you the first overall pick, maybe you're getting a 3rd-round pick for him, something like that. And you go, okay, we'll take Trevor Lawrence, and then at whatever, Seattle picks 30th, let's say, you take a corner there, and then it's like, well, okay, now what? You still don't have a great offensive core just yet, and you move on from Le'Veon Bell, let's say. Like, this team still needs a lot of work on the offensive side of the ball, I think, is the point that I want to make. And I don't know if using a high-end pick and swapping in a quarterback for it is going to make that much of a difference. I think it's just prolonging the build forward. And again, maybe that's the right call. Maybe you go with Trevor Lawrence and just wait this thing out an extra year or 2 until it gets right. But I don't know. I don't think I want to go through another rebuild. That's my issue.
Yeah, I think we have the second youngest quarterback in the league that has a ton of talent. I remember seeing something, I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks ago, with Todd McShay saying, hey, the Jets have their quarterback in Sam Darnold, and they should absolutely trade out of that first pick. Now, that was prior to this game, so maybe he's feeling a little differently. Who knows? I do think the Jets are dealing with one of the most ridiculous sets of circumstances right now with no number one wide receiver, number two wide receiver, number three wide receiver, number one running back, left tackle, right tackle. Like, it boggles my mind with just how little help Sam has on this offense. But then I look at other teams and I see them with injuries and I think, okay, well, they're able to move the ball. Like, is this a Sam thing or is this a Adam Gase thing? It's easier to replace the head coach than it is the quarterback. So I think in both of our minds, getting rid of Adam Gase and just seeing what Sam has with another offensive coordinator could at least help answer that question. Like, it either will solidify your thought that that Sam Darnold is not the quarterback, or it's going to, maybe cause a little bit of, maybe the Jets don't get the first overall pick. Like, I don't know what I should be rooting for. I don't know if I should be rooting for us to just bomb out and get the first overall pick, or if I want Sam to play well, get us like 4 or 5 wins. Jets wind up picking like third or fourth, and then, you still have your franchise guy, and then now you're taking an edge rusher, a cornerback, a wide receiver, something like that.
Then you get more Chase at 4. That's who you're probably taking at 4.
Yeah, it would have to be that or an edge rusher, or you get a bookend tackle on the other side. There's going to be like 4 or 5 blue chip guys. If you're picking in the top 5, you're going to have a really good player, or you're going to be able to trade out and get a lot of picks for your pick. And the nice thing is, basically every player that could be drafted in that top 5, the Jets could use. You could argue the quarterback, you could argue the edge rusher, you could argue the wide receiver, and then the tackle might be the least, I don't want to say possible, but the least high up there on the list. But I think with Douglas being a former offensive lineman, getting the 2 bookends on either side, that could be pretty enticing if you think you got a decade worth of protected quarterback, whether it's Sam Darnold or not.
Right. I wouldn't be completely stunned. I think I would bet that the Jets are more likely to go interior offensive line because I actually think Fant's played pretty well so far. I know he missed this past week, but in the first 2 games, I thought he looked pretty well. But if you're using Becton, who looked phenomenal again this week before getting injured, and hopefully he comes back soon. If you have Becton on the left side, McGovern should be better at center. Fant on the right side to hold down the fort, and then, I don't know, use maybe that Seattle pick on one of those high-end guards. Okay, you can maybe sell me on that. I'm not opposed to taking a tackle. I'm really not. I think the most important things for this team is continue to build the offensive line and to get more skilled players in here. So while I realize the cornerback situation is bad and edge rusher has been bad forever, I'm really desperately hoping the Jets lean more heavy on the offensive side.
Now, we do have free agency prior to the draft. Has anything that's transpired in the first 3 weeks of the season sort of changed your mind, or who are you possibly looking towards for free agency? Could be position-wise, could be player-wise.
Yeah, I really hope Juju hits free agency and that the Jets can land him. I desperately think that, we've seen it through the first 3 weeks. They need help at the wide receiver position. He's someone I would absolutely take a look at. If Allen Robinson hits the market, maybe you take a look at him. He's a couple years older, but I think he's still got some years left in the tank. And then on the other side of the ball, to me, it's edge and corner. I think you get by at middle linebacker with Mosley coming back, and I think Williamson will be fine. Safety, I think Ashton Davis is going to end up taking over for Bradley McDougall, who's really struggled in the first 3 weeks this year. And I think May's extended. But to me, it's the positions I'm really looking at: wide receiver, corner, and edge.
Yeah, I think for free agency, for me, what I'd like to do, Juju is definitely the number one target. I think that connection with Sam, and even just outside of the connection, I think he's just a really good athlete in general and a good wide receiver. The other one for me is Thuney, the interior offensive lineman from the Patriots, and that's someone that we've talked about in the past. I think it's probably someone who we probably both believe would have been our top target had he hit free agency this year. Depending on how things go with the Patriots. He's going to be, I think, 29 after the season, so he's not the youngest cat in the room, but he doesn't cause penalties. He's always healthy. He could fill in. I don't know. Alex Lewis has been playing pretty well. I would imagine you'd probably swap him out for Van Roten maybe. Um,
Yeah, I think I'd move Lewis to right guard and have Thuney play left guard at that point if that was the move.
yeah, I think when you pay that much money, you're going to wind up having to pay him probably $15 million a year, and the Jets are going to have about $80 million in cap space, and that's before you cut Le'Veon Bell, which I think is more than likely going to happen. If the Jets like Berrios a lot, he seems like he's pretty shifty. I don't know if he's a direct replacement for Crowder right now, or if they think maybe next year. Crowder's got one more year left on his deal, so I don't think I'd take away a piece unless I needed to use that money elsewhere.
Right.
I'm with you on the edge rusher. We need if we could, let's see, if we could say, all right, we're going maybe 2 higher priced free agents and then maybe Moneyball the rest of the way. I'm going Thuney, I'm going Juju, and then I'm probably trying to bring in like 2 edge rushers, or maybe an edge rusher and then draft another edge rusher, because you still have Zuniga. We still got to see what's going on with him. That's the thing with the Jets. There's so many rookies that we got that just haven't really played yet. Like, I know Green Bean's real high on Bryce Hall. We have Cameron Clark, who could potentially be a replacement for one of our guards. We have Zuniga, who could be playing well and could be a replacement at the outside. I don't think it's going to be your premier edge rusher, but if he can replace Jordan Jenkins' productivity, that's solid as well. It's going to be fascinating to see how the Jets handle this offseason. And if we do have that top 5 pick like we're all kind of expecting, if we go Juju and Thuney, let's play that game.
Okay.
Who are you taking at the top of this draft if it's not a quarterback? Are you doubling down with the wide receiver?
I really might. It's the Jets are that desperate for playmakers in here. I don't think we can't see another scenario where it's, Josh Malone, Braxton Berrios, and Chris Hogan as your starting receivers. With all due respect to them, that just can't happen in the NFL. You can't have it. I think it's still Jamar Chase, and you just build that wide receiving core. Have, one more year of Crowder. You're gonna have Mims for 3 more years at that point at a reasonable cost. You'd have Jamar Chase for 4 or 5 years at that point on a reasonable cost, and Juju's gonna probably expire by the time those guys are due to get paid. So, I think that's the move. I would go wide receiver that early. I think that's the play.
Yeah, you just go heavy with anything that can help Sam. Jamar Chase is a special talent.
That's the thing. Like, I loved the wide receivers in this class. I know you're a big CeeDee Lamb guy. I love CeeDee Lamb. Jerry Jeudy, both those guys I was very high on, but they had to take a tackle this year. They had to. Next year, completely different story. You can go wide receiver in the first round, especially because you have another first-round pick after that, so you can get a little bit unconventional in the top 5 and take a game-changing player, which is what Jamar Chase projects to be. Everyone that I listen to in the draft world, they all think Jamar Chase is a better prospect than anyone who came out last year. So that's pretty enticing if you ask me.
Yeah, I think if you could roll into next season with Mims, Crowder, Juju, and Chase as your wide receiver core, you're like, oh, we're set. We're good to go. Even if someone goes down, you still have plenty of depth there. That would be impressive. Now, what do you think they do with running back? Do you think we're drafting running back? Do you think we're signing running back? Do you think P. Ryan is the answer right now? Do you think Gore comes back?
A 38-year-old like Gore on this team, the chances of me watching any games are going to be very tough. But I'll say this. I think P. Ryan is going to be a solid second running back. I don't think he's ever someone who's going to be able to carry the workload. I think you could go a couple of different ways. I would be surprised if they spent big money in free agency, but if they got like a tier 2 kind of running back in like that, I don't know, $5 to $8 million range instead of like $12+ million, I could definitely see that. Or like a second or third round running back. I'm not opposed to that either. I think this is a pretty good running back class. It sucks that in September we have to talk about the NFL draft, which is like 8-9 months away, something like that. But that's what it is. But I don't think Le'Veon Bell is back next year. I really don't. So you're going to have to replace him. And to me, you have two options. Either go for a mid-range free agency option or a middle round draft running back. I'm okay with either.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Elijah, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I'm rooting for a blowout on Thursday. We need an L. That's almost where I think a lot of Jet fans are. It's like, hey, we need to rip this Band-Aid off. And a loss to Denver, who has a ton of injuries, would have to get done. The firing of Adam Gase. It just has to be that final nail in the coffin. We heard rumors prior to the game that the Jets brass, the higher ups, were considering what to do with Adam Gase. I saw some more rumors today. I didn't check too much of the validity of them, that the Jets were possibly calling around seeing to agents to see who's possibly available in terms of head coaches. Now, I don't understand how that would work if it winds up being higher right now, or if it's like, hey, at the end of the season you're going to be in here, because I would think you'd want to just put Greg Williams as head coach just for the last part of the season, or would they be looking for an offensive coordinator? I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't think that is for like a this year thing on the head coaches. I did hear that as well, but I don't think it would be like, hey, we're gonna pull Jim Caldwell off the street and he's gonna coach the team for the next 12 games. I think you're more likely to see Greg Williams take over as head coach because he's been an interim head coach before with the Browns just a couple of years ago, and I mean with the Bills too, if I'm not mistaken, he was the interim and then the head coach after that. But anyway, I think he takes over, blast Gase and Dowell Loggins into outer space, and let Jim Bob Cooter call plays. I mean, he's not great, but he had at least a little bit of success in Detroit, short-lived with Matt Stafford, so I'd be willing to give that a shot for sure.
Yeah, I think just getting that dial or getting that grading on Sam to really just know. It would crush me to see Sam flounder the entire time, but at least it would be like, okay, you know what? He's got the weapons. We're calling plays a little differently. Maybe this team responds by having the head coach fired, and maybe they're more likely to play for Greg Williams. I think effort is such a large part of an NFL game. Now, it doesn't look like we have the talent. That's going to be the other issue. But I don't know. Are you thinking of any head coaching candidates right now, or are you?
Oh yeah, we're always thinking of replacements. I do want to say though, quick, very upsetting to see the success that Cliff Kingsbury and Matt Rule have had. Well, Matt Rule just won his first game, not that he's had a ton of success, but the Panthers are competitive at least. Like they are playing for their guy, which just really bothers me. But I know someone mentioned us on Twitter about Greg Roman. I'm into that. The enemy is very high up on the list. The Titans offensive coordinator, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he would be on the list. And I think those are the big three. If you want to go college, PJ Fleck, those are probably my top four choices.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say those are definitely where I'm sort of falling as well. I like Greg Roman if you're getting the new quarterback. I think if you have, I got to look up the Tennessee OC now because I was looking at him.
I'm picturing his face, but I just can't think of what his name is. I think it's Adam something.
Arthur Smith.
It was an A name. There you go.
Yeah. I would like to. I like how they kind of handled the Ryan Tannehill thing. Now they do have the running back with the most yards after contact and the wide receiver with, I think, the most yards after catch, if I'm not mistaken. But it seems like this is a guy, or at least this is a team that's competitive week in and week out. I'm a little leery on Bieniemy. Bieniemy is going to be the real hot name, I think, because of the Kansas City Chiefs. To me, it almost feels like there's a reason why Bieniemy hasn't been selected yet. Like, we've seen Mahomes. Like, is Bieniemy just a different version of Adam Gase? I don't mean to like diss him like that, but if you think of Peyton Manning propping up Adam Gase, is Patrick Mahomes propping up Eric Bieniemy right now? I don't know.
I think that's a fair concern. I don't agree with it. I think that he had success with the running backs, and then that got him promoted to offensive coordinator, and then they've had success. And sure, a big part of it is because of Andy Reid, and another big part of it is because Pat Mahomes and the talent around him. But in Minnesota, he had success with the running backs there too. For me, I really like the Andy Reid coaching tree. I think that's the way to go. Everyone talks about the Bill Belichick coaching tree, but He's, in my opinion, Andy Reid, the best offensive play caller in the NFL. And if you can get someone who's been picking his brain for the last, at this point, probably half a decade, if not more, then I'm all for that. I really think he's going to be a good head coach in this league.
V-Man, thank you so much for the super chat. He said, let's end the Adam Gase hour. By the way, Peyton Manning convincing the Jets to hire Gase as payback for the 41-0 humiliation in the wild card. Oh, man. Peyton Manning has screwed us twice. He went back to school, and then he doesn't go. I mean, you could almost say 3 times. But the Jets sort of shot themselves in the foot with the whole Sanchez thing when they were flirting with Peyton. Could Trevor Lawrence do something like that? He sees the Jets. He sees how the Jets have handled Mark Sanchez. He sees how the Jets have handled Sam Darnold. He goes, I'm going to go back to Clemson one more year. One more season. He doesn't have to pull the whole, I don't want to play for the Jets. He just goes, I'm just going to play college another year.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen crazier things. That wouldn't be the most shocking thing. Actually, right now, so obviously it all depends on, what the next 13 games are like. But if the season ended today, the Jets wouldn't have the first overall pick. They'd actually pick 5th, I believe.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. The Jets have a really hard schedule, so we're going to have less wins than another team in order to kind of leapfrog everyone. Last year it was the opposite. We had such an easy schedule because we tied with so many people. We wound up having the highest pick of the 7 and 9 teams. Actually, let's pull it up. I'm pulling it up now. We're week 3 into the season.
Yeah, I think
we're going to Tankathon.
Yeah, the strength of schedule was in the 6s, I believe, for the Jets, and most of the other ones were in the 5s.
Yeah, that's insanely hard. So Miami in our division is the only team that has a harder strength of schedule than the Jets currently right now in the teams at the top. So right now it would be Atlanta, the Giants, Denver, Minnesota, the Jets, and Miami. So really, this loss to Denver potentially could be huge for our draft position when you're thinking about it later on down the line.
You're really not wrong, though.
How weird is it to see, you know what? It's Houston that's 0-3, not Miami. So it's Houston, but it's Miami's pick from Houston. How weird is it to see Minnesota at pick 4 right now?
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Honestly, they might go quarterback. Are you trusting Kirk Cousins? How much longer can you play that game?
I don't know. Let's see. I feel like we looked up his cap hit the other day when we were on here. Let me pull it up real quick. Cousins has a very interesting contract because if he's still on the roster as of March 20th, his 2022 salary becomes fully guaranteed. So that's a really hard contract to get out of. If the Vikings want to get out of it, they have to cut him prior to that date this offseason, and they'd have to eat $10 million. So they'd lose an additional $10 million in cap space to save money in 2022.
Gotcha.
So it's a really weird sort of way that works. And what's their cap situation like right now? I don't know if they can afford to do that. I think they might have to keep Cousins. Now maybe you look into, I don't know if you look into trading him or if you look into, do you sign a quarterback knowing you have 2 years of Kirk Cousins and they're just going to sit there and learn? Or is that wasting too much of a rookie contract at that point?
That's tough. I almost feel like they've hamstrung themselves to Kirk Cousins, which has very much so seemed to backfire. He looked really rough against the Colts in week 2. They looked a little bit better, but they still ended up losing to Tennessee in a close game. I just don't think he's going to be someone to put you over the top. And I think they're just going to sit in the middle of the road until they move on from him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's sort of you're almost in a quarterback purgatory because he'll beat up on the bad teams, but anytime he's got to face a good team, he just sort of flounders and doesn't do what you want him to do. Exactly. Guys, let's give away a shirt. We're going to give away a shirt tonight because I'm not doing my normal Monday show. We're not doing our Talkin' Jets panel tomorrow, so it's just this show this week. So let's do this. There is a link down below in the description to the Talkin' Jets podcast. It's this same show, just in podcast form. So all you have to do is go down into the description, click on that link, and just follow the podcast. If you do that, that gets you entered to win a hat, shirt, mug, or something like that. Maybe I'll give away a Just End the Suffering shirt. We'll do that. We'll do that, and we'll do 2 giveaways. We'll do that one. We'll do one of the Kalo hats too. Kalo's the Hemp Infused Seltzer that has been so kind as to give us some stuff to give away on the channel. So make sure you go down to the description down below. You'll see the links to both Matt and Green Bean's profiles. Make sure you follow them. But then go down to the Talkin' Jets podcast, click that, follow that. And that's for all those guys that are out there that don't want to kill their phone battery watching this stream. And then you can listen to it the next day. So it's kind of a different way to follow along. I guess let's get our thoughts a little bit about this upcoming week's game, and what should we be expecting from this this Broncos team? They're banged up, they're injured. What are your thoughts, kind of leading into this weekend?
I could not be any less excited for this game on Thursday. And a big part of it is because I think the Broncos are equally as bad right now, which is upsetting because I thought they were going to be competitive for a wild card spot if fully healthy, but they are just so injured right now. They are down a ton. Von Miller's not playing. Like there's Drew Lock is out, obviously. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. Both teams are going to struggle to move the ball. Who the hell knows who's starting for Denver? We know it's not going to be Bortles. It's probably going to be Driscoll if I had to guess. But we're really going to be subjected to watching Jeff Driscoll and this New York Jets offense on Thursday night. It's going to be really bad, Ryan.
I'm concerned. This is going to be a stinker of a nationally televised game, which could be exactly what the Jets need. I mean, yeah, even if this could be one of those things where even if the Jets win that game, but they look bad doing it, I could see them canning Adam Gase regardless. Like, I don't think it needs to be a loss necessarily, but I think a loss in prime time would make it a lot easier for Chris Johnson to be like, I was wrong.
I hope you're right, because my biggest fear is that they win this game like 13-10, and they're like, okay, we're going to keep Gase now for the rest of the season, which is just the absolute worst decision you can make, because there's probably, like you said earlier, not another win on that schedule until you get to Miami.
Yeah, not good. No, no bueno for that. I mean, I don't think anyone that's currently watching the Jets can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that we look like we're going to get a win at all. Like, I think Denver's really our best shot at getting a victory this season. It's hard to go 0-16. Like, some team is going to lay an egg against us. Jets are going to beat someone they shouldn't beat. But it's hard to sort of see right now.
That's the thing. Winning. When, like, I'm trying to, and this has been the conversation, unfortunately, because they stink so bad, but get it, draft position and number one overall pick. And some people are saying 0-16 is a real possibility. And while I guess that's the case, every single year, there's always games where teams win when they're supposed to lose, and teams lose games they're supposed to win. You see the Jets lost to the winless Bengals and Dolphins last year, and they somehow beat the Dallas Cowboys, who were on fire to start the year. Like, sometimes the NFL just doesn't make sense, and there's probably going to be a game or two. Who knows? Maybe it's the Cardinals coming across the country and you somehow surprise them, or something like that. Like, it's weird. The NFL stuff happens, man.
Dude, it's fascinating to watch. It's fascinating to watch what's going to happen. The Jets, I think, match up relatively favorably to this injured Broncos team. You don't have to worry about the pass rush quite as much as you otherwise would have had to. Now, who has the least amount of bodies getting out of this game with without coming out with a body bag? It's going to be ugly. I guess rather than talking so much about Denver, let's harp a little bit more on the whole Adam Gase thing. Do you think Adam Gase is fired on Friday?
Yes, I really do. I think it makes the perfect sense. One, because of how bad they've looked, but this is almost like a mini bye week because you're playing on Thursday instead of Sunday. So you're giving, presumably, Greg Williams and Jim Bob Cooter an extra couple of days to prepare for their next game, which I believe is Arizona next, right?
Yeah, I think it's the Cardinals.
Right, they should be able to move the ball all over this Jets defense, but who knows? It's a West Coast team traveling all the way to the East Coast, having to play a 1:00 game. Maybe the Jets are motivated with a quote unquote new voice in the room. We'll have to see, but I think timeline wise, it makes sense to do it after a Thursday night loss, and especially if they lose badly again. Like, the Jets haven't really been in any of these games. The score in week 1 was nowhere near close to what the game really felt like, and week 2 and week 3 were blowouts. So if they lose again, it's over.
Yeah, there's the scores that we've seen in these games, with the exception of, I guess, yesterday. Yesterday felt like how the other games felt. It never felt like we were close in the Buffalo game. It never felt like we were close in the San Francisco game. It felt like it was just sort of, garbage time touchdowns. The one to Berrios, the one to what was it, Adams? I think that ran one in late for the Buffalo game. I think he's gone Friday. I really do. I think that's probably the right decision to make. You have to see what you have left in Sam Darnold, and then you just sort of give it a shot with someone else. You hope that this team can get healthy. You hope that you could see some progression. I want to see Mims get on the field. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think if we had Perriman yesterday and Sam is able to let it rip down the field the way he was doing it, I think he looks a lot better. Now, is there something to Adam Gase not letting him throw downfield the 2 games prior? Like, do they think Sam is a turnover-prone machine, and that's the reason why he was calling the games the way he was calling them prior? Or is he just inept?
I would lean more towards inept, just because the sample size of Gase being bad has been bigger. Like, I think it's fair to criticize Sam for the turnovers. I really do, but it's 2020 in the NFL. You can't win in this league by dumping it down to Kalen Balazs a million times. Like, you just can't. It's a recipe to get blown out, which is what they've essentially done each of the first 3 weeks. And if you don't trust the quarterback to move down the ball down the field, I guess we have bigger issues. But I think that Sam has shown in flashes enough in his career that he is able to do that. You have to give him some help. Like, he has no help whatsoever from the play calling or the other players on the field right now at the skill position groups. It's just really rough.
Yeah, I'm looking at, so I pulled up Pro Football Focus, and I'm just kind of looking at some of the grades from across the board. McGovern continues to be rated the worst center in the league. He finishes right now with a 41.7. Now, he was hurt. I wasn't expecting him to play this past game, so maybe that affected him a little bit. Becton holding strong, 76.9. That's the 15th best tackle in the league. Alex Lewis, 22nd best guard in the league with a 69.2. So those are both, bluish green type players. A player I'm surprised of, and I'd have to go back and watch to really kind of lock it in, but Edoga was graded the highest player on our offense.
That's
78.5.
I didn't think he played bad, but he didn't necessarily stand out to me. Like, watching that game, were you thinking, oh my God, Chuma Doga looks great? I wasn't.
No, not at all. This was more of a surprising thing. I wonder if this is more of like a run grade type situation where it's like, running that side. Because the pass blocking, it felt like we were definitely worse with, when Becton was out and when Fant obviously wasn't in there the whole time.
McDermott was a disaster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it looks like his pass blocking, they gave him a 64. His run blocking was nearly an 86, so he was. That's where he seemed to have excelled. When we're looking at this Broncos defense, and across the board, it looks like their left end Harris and Callahan and Simmons. So Callahan's a cornerback, Simmons is safety. Those are going to be the strengths of their defense. It looks like the Jets could be able to run the ball over that left-hand side if Becton's healthy and he's playing. You run behind him and Lewis and just kind of run clock, sort of control the tempo of this game. I don't think there's anyone I'm afraid of on this Broncos team. Just everyone's hurt.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. Like, that, neither one of these teams are even close to full strength. I'd argue if, both teams were at full strength, that Denver probably has more talent, but as it is right now, like, they're starting Jeff Driscoll on Thursday, most likely. Like, this is not going to be a pretty game. I really don't. Whatever the under is, just bet the under for this game. Don't worry about the spread with Denver favored in this game. Just bet the under.
Yeah, there's no way that I see this game being like an enjoyable game to watch. Like, this is going to be I feel like this is going to be a clunker of a Thursday night football game, or it's going to be something totally wacky because none of these teams have any time to practice, and there's just going to be like a 35-24 type game that's no one saw coming. I just don't think either team has the bodies. Jerry Jeudy, I think he's not listed as out right now, but I think he's banged up.
Definitely,
if I'm not mistaken. This Jets team just needs a lot of help. It needs a lot of help. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about Darnold's future. Uh, let's kind of start it with this week. What does Sam have to do for you to have a little more faith in him and maybe sort of put your finger off the panic button?
No turnovers. Uh, Over 200 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, which I don't think is unreasonable.
No, no. I think I could live with an interception depending on how it happens. If it's a pick six or like a terribly thrown ball. If it's one of those like long bombs that's like a punt of a throw, I think I could live with that. But I agree. I think 2 touchdowns, 200, 250 yards, I think is what you'd hope to get. But with no wide receivers, like it's so hard for me to want to like see Sam do well, but then also want to see Gase fired, and then also like there's no one to throw to. There's this whole team's decimated.
Maybe we just hope for a high completion percentage, like 180 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and the Jets lose like 17-7, and that's it.
Yeah, like the Jets and Sam just execute their game plan perfectly. He doesn't make any mistakes. Yeah, he looks good, like fine, like okay. He didn't throw it away. Nothing happened. But this game plan was terrible, and Gase needs to go. And that's like pull the plug, get him out of there, pull the ripcord.
Exactly.
Ugh. Now, in the further sense, what do you need to see from Sam throughout the rest of this season to feel comfortable in keeping Sam as opposed to going with one of these quarterbacks at the top of next year's draft?
I need to see the Jets throw the ball down the field some more, and him to throw the ball down the field some more. His YPA is way too low. That number has to go up. The completion percentage on the season has to go up from what it has been his first 2 years in the league. Realistically, so let's say he plays a full 16-game season. I'd like to see going into this year, I was hoping for 3,800 passing yards, but with how the first 3 and potentially 4 weeks are, I don't think he's going to hit that. So maybe readjusting to 3,600, say 23 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, high 80s passer rating, something like that.
Man, with the way this schedule looks and how hard it is, I just have a hard time seeing Sam being able to get that kind of accumulation of yards. It would really depend on Gase being canned and him really starting to open up after that, I think. If Jim Bob Cooter or whoever the offensive coordinator that they choose to bring in, I would think it would have to be someone on staff this year. I don't think you have enough time, especially with the pandemic and everything going on, limited practice time. There's no way you're going to get everyone on the same page with an entirely new offense. So you roll with Jim Bob Cooter. He did have success with Golden Tate, so maybe you have a player like a Crowder or I don't know. I could see Sam turning into a Stafford type quarterback. You know, he doesn't have the arm Stafford has. Stafford's got a good long ball, but you know, big bodied guy, you know, relatively mobile. He's not the no one's gonna mistake him for Deshaun Watson or Kyler Murray or any of those guys. But I think it's weird. Last game or yesterday's game, I actually didn't mind some of the play calls. I like the play actions. I like the bootlegs. It just felt like we kind of got away from that towards the second half of the game, and it felt like we just wanted to run the ball. It was almost like they probably did want to take the game out of Sam's hand because he was hurting them so much. You figure we gave away 16 points to that Colts team, so now you're looking at maybe 20 points that they score rather than the 36 that they had. Not to mention the interception in the red zone from Sam, so now that's 3 to 7 points of a swing. So maybe it's 14-20, and we're talking about this game totally differently than how it actually went. Now, I'm with you. You said earlier that Cager looked like he didn't come back to the ball. I 100% agree with that. I mean, still not a great throw by Sam. And the same thing with, if it was Berrios or Hogan, the announcers even said it too. They're like, it looks like they're not running the right route. Like, it was a very oddly placed ball. And Sam's pretty accurate. Like, they're not going to come out and say like, oh, they're, you know, the receiver ran the wrong route or anything like that. But I'd like to sort of look at it and see the inexperienced wide receiver and just say, okay, this is definitely the issue that we're having. It's not so much the quarterback, it's the lack of knowledge on the receiving end that we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's certainly possible. Like Braxton Berrios, he's not getting a ton of playing time if everyone's healthy. Hogan was just signed, what, a month ago? Like, it's entirely possible that Gase, who, let's not forget, he runs a very complicated system according to all these players who there's a lot of options and stuff like that in his system. So, maybe it was a miscommunication. Maybe we can give Sam the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I just think if they're able to get a new voice in there in Jim Bob Cooter, and if he can just get back to like the basics and keep it simple almost, that they'd have a better shot. And I think that it's entirely possible to see a better looking quarterback in the second half of this season if they do decide to move on from the offensive coordinator and the head coach, who've been really bad for a long time.
Yeah. Juan Pablo Renzo Morgaga, thank you so much for the super chat. That looks like CLP. Is that I think that's a Chilean currency. I have friends that are I used to work at the ski resort, and they used to get people like the international students from Chile, Argentina, and Peru in their summer for our winter. Pretty sure that's what that currency is. It's a Chilean. Interesting. Very cool. Getting someone from Chile. Guys, if you haven't noticed, down in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, MyBookieAG, they are sponsoring the channel for this season. Anyone who signs up with MyBookieAG and uses promo code JT receives a 100% bonus match up to $1,000. Just use promo code JT. Bet with me, win some money. MyBookieAG, promo code JT. Double your money today. MyBookieAG, promo code JT. Guys, if you want your shot to win a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Talk store, along with one of the Kalo shirts, two different contests, down below in the description is a link to my podcast for this show. It's the Talkin' Jets podcast. Go down below, click on that link to the podcast, and all you have to do is follow it. I'm going to pick one of the names on that list to receive one of the giveaways. Or I guess I'll pick two names off that list to receive a giveaway. So you guys will have your chance to do that. So make sure you look in the description down below. Guys, we're at 64 likes. We have 265 people in this chat right now. Hit that like button if you enjoy this show and you want to spread the word. Jets Talk is one of the more fun panels. Or Talkin' Jets is one of the more fun panels that you guys can listen into and get your Jets fix for the week. So hit that like button. All right. Now, in terms of Darnold's future, have you started looking at any of the quarterbacks next year, or are you still kind of dialed into this season so far?
Not yet. I'm really not hoping to get to that point. I'm going to say probably the last half of the year. If it continues to go this badly is when I'll start to get into it a little bit more. Listen, I know it's been really bad in the first 3 weeks, but I still want to see more out of this team. Like, we are going to get Le'Veon Bell back in the next week or two. Denzel Mims should be coming back in the next week or two. Crowder might be back for this week. There are some intriguing things that I would like to see. And I'm also big on like development too. So I'm really interested to see on Quinnen Williams. I thought he was rather quiet this past week after having probably his best game of his career in week 2. I'm curious to see what kind of player he becomes the rest of the year. And if, any of these guys on the defensive side of the ball prove that they are long-term pieces to build around. So I'm not quite fully invested into draft season. I'm sure in the later point of this season, or potentially from January through April, I'll be all in on the draft though.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get to the bye week. If I can get to the bye week before we start, because for those of you guys that don't know, the bye week's week 11. So if you get to the bye week and you're 0-10 or 1-9 or 2-8, then you start figuring out what your draft pick is going to be, because you'll know what the other teams are sort of looking at. I'm with you. I'm not on the quarterback train just yet. Mm-hmm. I want to believe in Sam. My biggest issue is if the Jets get the first overall pick and Trevor Lawrence is a special quarterback. We've already done it with Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes because we thought we believed in Christian Hackenberg. Now, I'm not saying Sam Darnold is Christian Hackenberg. Totally different circumstances here.
Yes.
But do the Jets pass on what is deemed a franchise-changing quarterback to hope that Sam Darnold gets better when you surround him with talent? I think that's going to be the big question that the Jets are going to have to answer come draft time.
Absolutely. I also don't think, I don't know if there's a hot take or not, but I don't think the Jets end up with the first overall pick.
Who do
I
you
think
think? You think it's the Giants, maybe?
I would say Detroit, Washington, the Giants, and maybe Carolina ends up with the worst record when it's all said and done.
I'm gonna call that a hot take.
I think the Jets pick fifth. That's going to be my hot take. In week 3 on September 28th, hold me to it. Jets pick fifth in this draft.
Jets pick fifth. Based on what I've seen, if they switch head coaches and there's a fire lit under their butts and the players come back healthy, and then, maybe they go on a run at some point, I don't see it. I think the Jets are picking top 3 for sure. I think the Giants are the only other team that look that bad. Like, I think Houston's going to win some games. I think Minnesota's going to win some games. I think Atlanta's going to win some games. Denver, the Giants, the Jets. I do agree Detroit could be up there. Washington, I don't know what to make of them because they're playing all right defensively. Like, their defense could win them a few games in that division. Heck, they're winning the division right now at 1-2. If you had told me after 3 weeks the Washington football team would be the top of the AFC East, I would have just kind of laughed at you. I don't believe in Haskins at all.
No good.
He looked pretty. He had a pretty ugly day as well. He had 3 interceptions, I think, as well on the day. Ugh. Let's look into our chat. Let's see what we got going on. What are you guys talking about? Jay Penn, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't see a question before it. He says Hewitt 2. We have no corners, and then below that he goes Darnold. Whoop, where'd it go? Losing my stuff now. Sorry, I will find this. Jay Penn says Darnold will be in good hands next year. Why you think Douglas didn't sign Adams or any receivers? Because he's not going to invest money on a team not built to win now. So that's an interesting discussion to have, is the way we handled this offseason by bringing back, not bringing back, but by getting Brashad Perriman rather than bringing back Robbie Anderson. By the Jets not going out getting a corner or an edge rusher that we sort of expected them to get, like Jadeveon Clowney or a Logan Ryan, or like to be more aggressive. Did Douglas sort of have this plan almost, I don't want to say mapped out, but was he kind of okay with the Jets flopping and sort of having a bad season? Do you think he wanted to get rid of Adam Gase?
I really think, which was my take in the offseason, but I still think this. I think it was an evaluation season. I think he really wanted to see what the Jets had. But unfortunately, I think injuries kind of derailed that a little bit. And I don't think anyone could have predicted these first 3 games going the way that they did. I think there was a realistic chance that the Jets started 0-3, which I'm not shocked that they're 0-3. I'm shocked at how they became 0-3. And I think that he really just wanted to see, okay, what pieces am I going to have and build around? And maybe that is the way that he wants to go. Maybe he just wants to look and see what his quarterback can do and say, okay, well, now I'm going to put the pieces around you. I don't know. That's not how I would have done it, but I could kind of see where he's coming from with that take.
Yeah, we need talent in the worst way. This easily looks like the worst roster in all of football. Like, at least the Giants, when they have Saquon Barkley, like the dude's a top 2, top 3 running back in the league. The Jets, I don't think we have a top player anywhere. Like, even CJ Mosley, who was arguably our best player, when he opted out, he said he wanted to find that fire again or something to that effect. I know Greenbean brought it up last week. That's not what I want to be hearing out of any of my players, especially one that's making $17 million a year over the course of the next 3-4 seasons. Exactly. What do you think happens with CJ? Is he coming back? Could he be traded? Could he retire? Like, what is he doing?
I think he does come back and play. It's so bizarre with everything that's happened. But I do think that he comes back and plays with the New York Jets next year. Is he going to be the same player that he was in Baltimore? I really don't know. I don't. It's hard to evaluate because we haven't seen him in 2 years. Really, we saw him for half of the Buffalo game. That was essentially it. So I don't see how you get out of that contract within the next 2 years. I think he at minimum is on the team over the next 2 years, and they'll go from there.
That is one of the ugliest contracts the Jets have signed for a player that's only given you 3/4 of play. Granted, it was a fantastic 3/4 of play, but now you're talking about a player that hasn't been in like real football shape for 2 years. I shouldn't say not football shape. He was in football shape last year,
Right.
but not playing in active games. I mean, the only reason our IR didn't look worse is because we never IR'd Mosley. We knew he wasn't going to be playing the rest of the year.
No, exactly. It's going to be really interesting to see what he comes back and looks like in 2021. The sad part is the Jets are going to they're forced to rely on him heavily. They need him to come back and be the player that he was in Baltimore. Is that going to happen? There's no way of really knowing that, but it's not going to be an easy thing. It really isn't.
Guys, we're going to be getting Green Bean here in just a little bit. Oh, and by just a little bit, I mean right now. He just popped in to the into the Zoom. So let's see if I can get this working all nicely.
Hey.
Bam! Green Bean. How you doing, brother?
Dude, what are you guys talking about?
Oh, we're talking about how terrible our Jets are. That's really what it boils down to. So let's
going on?
Let's reiterate some of the questions we've kind of gone over. What do you think of the game? What do you think of week 3? What are your thoughts overall? I love that you're on a beach, by the way. Is that
dude?
Are you in like the Badlands or something, or like the mountains?
Can you see that view?
It's incredible.
So let me tell you, I'll spend 30 seconds telling you where I am. Look at that. That's called Lone Rock, this thing right here.
Yeah.
So I am on the border of Utah and Arizona. It's the Colorado Reservoir, and it's one of the most beautiful places right here. I am camped here. So hold on, I just fixed my internet. I should be good.
Yeah, we got a little hopping around, but you're sounding clear now.
Shit.
You're frozen. You got your mouth open right now, but there you go.
Am I back? I just fixed it. I just fixed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Right. I just fixed it. I should be good. I just did an 1.5-hour live stream right before this, and I was perfect. So this would be stinky if I don't get good for you guys. So anyway, let me just say, so that's where I am. Thanks for noticing. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm as happy as I've been in years here. So the game. Oh, am I frozen, Ryan?
No, you're good. You're moving around. I can see you. Can you hear us? You look like you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks very.
You're leaning back right now.
You guys are frozen.
Oh no, just keep talking. You're fine. We're moving around fine. Yeah, you're good.
All right. Okay. All right. Good. So I cannot believe that it's this bad. I can't believe that it's this bad. But here's what I think. Like, I was looking into Kotite stuff yesterday. I got motivated to look at Kotite, tried to remember how I felt then. And here's the good news. Right on the heels of Kotite, it was such a bottom that we had to do something drastic. We got Bill Parcells, and the next 10 years were respectable. We got to the AFC Championship game. So we did a lot of stuff that we hit that bottom. That's what I'm hoping this is, because there's no silver lining. And I hope Gase's last day as a New York Jet is Thursday night, man. That's what I hope. I mean, it's terrible. This guy's a friggin' embarrassment, is he not?
No, 100%. I think you're right. We were talking about this earlier, but we were saying Thursday's most likely the end of the line for Gase. Has to be.
Yeah, I think if you go into this week and he loses, Even if he wins, if the offense looks bad and Sam struggles, I think you got to get rid of Gase regardless. Green Bean, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
But if we win, yeah, no, dude, it's if even if we win and they try to say the team rallied behind them and all that baloney, which is fearful, I'm afraid of that, quite frankly. But even with that, they got to get rid of this guy. There's no coach in the league, and we've talked about this before, that when the shit is hitting the fan, sits alone on the fucking bench, man. What is that? Where is the connectivity? Where is the rah-rah? Where's the accountability? There's nothing. He is disconnected from the entire game in his own head, and he's just working out some formulaic problems that he's working on and isn't even going on in the fucking game, man. It's ridiculous. And this guy needs to go. I don't give a shit if they win or not. It's just like you talked about. I think it was you, Ryan, last week. The best time to fire a coach is Thursday because it gives those few days for the new team, the new guys to kind of settle in. And that's what I think is going on. It better be what's going on.
Yeah, I think you have to get rid of him. Just the way Sam's played, the way this team has looked, it looks uninspired. Even with the injuries, it just looks like Gase is kind of giving up. Him standing off to the side and just not addressing Sam. I know Matt talked about it in his recap video. Matt, you want to sound off on that whole topic?
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous because obviously Sam was struggling. He threw 3 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. It can't get any worse. But to not go over to him, like how many shots on the sideline was it of Sam either standing by himself or sitting on the bench holding his chest pads with the Jets hat on? And who the hell knows where Dowell Loggins, what does he do? If he's not talking to Sam Darnold, what does he do? They haven't challenged one play in the first 3 games. It's okay if you go over and talk to the quarterback. You don't have to have the red flag in your pocket right now. And Gase, like, we know he doesn't give a damn about the defense. When the defense is on the field, let Greg do his thing. Go over and talk to Sam. Like, why are we just letting this kid spiral out of control? It's insane.
Green Bean.
It's the saddest thing in the damn world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't it the saddest thing in the world? It's like what Matt was just saying. Like, and as you were saying it, it made my heart, like I felt something. It's like there's this lonely kid with all the hope in the world, all the talent in the world, and he's swirling out of control, like you said, and no one on our staff is trying to console him, trying to work through the issue. He's just alone. Like, what? It's this, I can't imagine where this is okay. It's not okay, man. And we need to change. And I don't know if this, look, getting Gase out, maybe Cooter can't do certain things because it offends Gase and everything else. I don't know. Maybe that happens. But no matter how you slice it, I want I want everybody gone. I don't want fucking Greg Williams. I don't want the trainers. I don't want anybody. I want them all gone. Let Joe Douglas handpick his staff and get these guys in here and let's get something going. And hopefully that's with Sam. But if he, at this point, I'm even nervous for Sam. I mean, dude, that was atrocious. But you know what? You know what, though? Is that touchdown pass and when the game was competitive in that first half or so, that touchdown pass, that's Sam Darnold, dude. That's what we're expecting. And that's the magic that he has. But we don't let it out. It's the craziest thing. I don't understand it. He shows you every week, look, I have this in the bag here, and we don't let it happen. It's just sad. It's terrible. It makes me fucking want to cry. If I was a wimp, if I wasn't such a man.
Such a big man with that big beard over there. Look, I think you're dead on. I think I'm so sad for Sam Darnold. He's the loser in all this. Like, Jet fans plus Sam Darnold are the losers. Like, I think Sam was an elite prospect that we had the opportunity to mold, and Adam Gase straight up ruined it. Mike McCagnon ruined it by making the picks and signing the contracts he signed, did not surround Sam the way he needed to. It's tough for Jet fans to just look in their division and see Josh Allen just tearing it up. A player that I think all of us thought was not going to be better than Sam. Right now, it's night and day. He could be in the MVP conversation. That's how good he's playing right now.
Good. It's sad because I'm with you, Ryan. I've been very critical of Josh Allen, and I could say that I've been really wrong about him this year. He's been excellent for the Bills, but a big part of the reason is because they have a really good coach. Hats off to them. They made the right hire there, and they've built around their young quarterback. They went out and got him a number 1 receiver. John Brown's a great number 2 receiver. Cole Beasley in the slot is excellent. They have a really good offensive line. Their defense was already good to begin with. They made life as easy for Josh Allen as possible, and he's taken that and ran with it. Sam Darnold has had to go through hell with this Jets team, the coach, the roster, and he hasn't been able to overcome that. And some of that is on him. Like, yes, some of that is on Darnold, but I think a large majority of the reason why he is not playing well and the Jets aren't playing well is because of the roster construction from Mike McCagnon and hiring Adam Gase and how bad he's been over the last 2 years.
Yeah, the head coach has really been
Right.
the
Oh my
hamstring,
God.
I think, for all of us. And I agree with Greenbean. I think at the end of the season, look, right now I want Greg Williams to be the interim head coach. I want Jim Bob Cooter to be the OC. But I agree, at the end of the season, you clean house. You get rid of everyone. Anyone that had anything to do with this regime, and you let Douglas bring in his guy. I don't want Chris Johnson anywhere involved in this. I want him to be like, okay, Douglas, you've got 4 more years left on your
Right.
contract. This is you now. This is do what you want. You have full roster control. Bring in the head coach you want. I think it'll be very telling who we go with for head coach. And if that coach looks like he's more apt to take a quarterback early on, or if it's someone that could be holding on to Sam, because there's a legitimate argument right now that you should be moving on from Sam, even if he shows you a little bit of being a franchise quarterback. And part of that is the rookie contract. We've wasted 3 seasons of it. We'll have 1 4th year of a cheap deal, but we're going to have to decide on his 5th year option this March. So I don't think Sam gets moved until the draft. I think it'll be similar to like a Josh Rosen type situation. You wait and see who's available at that time. You don't want to risk like Trevor Lawrence not coming out or or anything like that. Like, you can't move your quarterback, mid-season this year for a team unless they're looking to give up like something huge, and then you just want to say like, okay, we're bottoming out, which I think is the totally wrong decision to make. Last week we talked about trading out a number 1. How are we feeling right now in if the Jets get the first pick, and seeing how Sam has played through 3 weeks? Do you trade out still, or are you pulling the trigger and taking that quarterback? Greenbean, I'll throw it to you first. Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Me first?
Go ahead, Greenman.
Okay. Nah, please. I don't know what the hell's going on with you.
Okay. It's so tough. I don't want to be put in this situation. If you put a gun to my head, as of today, right now, I'm trading out of that pick, subject to change, but I want to get as many draft capital as possible to build around Sam Darnold, because I still believe in him right now. In 6 weeks, that can completely change, but as of today, that's my take on it.
I agree. I'm 100% where Matt is right now. And I like that you gave yourself that. I don't do that a lot. I pen myself into these stances. That's good. You gave yourself an out. I'm gonna take that, Matt. I'm learning. I'm still learning in my old age. But right now, I think, dude, that we have every reason why Sam Darnold hasn't performed. The kid's 23 years old. You look at so many examples: Kurt Warner, Grogan, what the hell was his name? The guy for the Raiders. I forget. It might have been
Gannon.
Not Grogan. Gannon, right? Thank you. So many guys needed a few years, and they came back and they were incredible. That's going
Alex
to be
Smith.
Sam Darnold. Right.
Alex Smith is the same kind of guy.
Good one.
Right. So I think that this is an opportunity, just like Jamal Adams was an opportunity. And just so you know, Jamal Adams is a liability up there. I watched those games. That guy is, yes, he's making his tackles, and that's just a little sidebar. He was worth trading. He would not have helped what we're going through right now and
Right.
what we got. So that was an opportunity. We got 2 firsts and a third for him. If you have the first overall pick, you can trade, especially with a guy like Trevor Lawrence sitting there. Teams are going to trade the farm for him. You can get 3 firsts, or like a first, a second, a first this year, a first next year, a second and a third next year. You can do stuff like that. And that's how you build the team. And that's what Joe Douglas is doing.
Now, we were talking
So I
about
would
this
trade it.
earlier. We were looking at the draft board. At this point right now, I understand the thought process both ways. I'm with you guys. I want to hold on to Sam, but I think the discussion does have to start happening where it's like, okay, what happens? What is our threshold? Is there a certain number he needs to get to? Is it an eyeball test? Because passing on Trevor Lawrence the same way the Jets passed on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Now, I'm not calling Darnold the same thing that Hackenberg was. It's a totally different situation. But do you pass on an elite level guy just to hold on to Sam? Right now, I like getting the draft picks for that number 1 pick if the Jets get it. Right now, we were talking about it before. The Jets actually own the 5th pick as it stands right now. So it's going to be Atlanta, number 1, which is mind-boggling. They gave up, 15 or 16-point leads 2 weeks in a row. They're not going to wind up with a top pick, I don't think. The Giants are sitting at 2. Denver is sitting at 3. Those both make sense to me. Minnesota at 4 doesn't make sense to me at all. That team's way too talented to be 0-3. The Jets are sitting at 5 because of the strength of schedule. And then at number 6 is Houston, but they traded that pick to Miami. So Miami would be picking at 6 behind us. Man, it's going to get real interesting real quick. The Jets have played an insanely hard schedule. Like, if you look at the rest of our division and their strengths of schedule, the Bills are a 5-5-3. The Patriots are a 5-2-2. The Dolphins are a 5-4-3. The Jets are a 6-3-8. So it's a drastic difference in strength of schedule right now. Like, it almost happened to us last year too, the same sort of thing. We're playing Buffalo week 1, not an easy game. Then you got the Browns, who, maybe with a healthy Sam Darnold, we actually win that game. And then we had the Patriots. We're just getting run ragged the first 3 weeks of both the last 2 NFL seasons. Green Bean, who would you say are threats to getting those top 5 picks away from the Jets? Do you see the Jets getting the top pick, or do you think there's other teams that should be in the discussion?
I don't know whose roster is as depleted as ours. I think the Giants are the number 1 threat, especially with Barkley going down. They're in trouble. But that all said, they look like they're playing football. I mean, and we did for a little while yesterday, but that game, I swear, my daughter said to me, "This game is still on?" And I was like, "Yeah." It feels like the never-ending diatribe of fucking pain. It was just because there was no competition. I almost think like when the Chiefs have to play us, they're gonna be like, "Why are we even playing this team?" Like, that's how bad it is. Now, that all said, we're still gonna have guys like Mims, Zuniga, Pirine coming, being filtered in more. Obviously, maybe guys like Bryce Hall and that batch of guys. So there's guys coming in, Vincent Smith, all that stuff. We started the season without half of our first stringers, in some important positions. So when that happens, maybe we can be more competitive. But dude, the receivers that are running around right now, they're trying. They're doing, Berrios has a touchdown, I think, in each game, right? Good. It's good. It's what he should be doing. But come on, dude. The idea that we're going to compete moving forward, our schedule gets harder, man. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't see many threats if we continue to play this way. And I'll tell you one indicator if we're moving on from Darnold is if at week 10 we're starting James Morgan or something like that. Or if we start activating James Morgan, that's going to be the first signal for me that we're drafting Trevor Lawrence if we get the first round pick.
It would have to take something super serious for the Jets to move away from Sam, I think. I don't even know if Flacco gets any playing time unless it's like late in a game, Sam was abysmal, and they're like, okay, we're plugging Flacco in for like the tail end of a game. Or if Sam gets hurt. Those are the only ways I see it. I think they're going to roll with Sam all season because you're going to have to get as much tape on him as possible. You're going to have to figure out, okay, are we trading him? What is his trade value actually going to be? I think if the Jets are picking number 1 overall, his trade value is going to be pretty bad. I think you're going to struggle to get a 3rd-round pick. You might have to give up hey, I'll give up a 5th-round pick to get a 3rd-round pick with him, or some sort of weird wheeling and dealing to get a higher draft pick. I want to hold on to Sam.
Maybe they get nothing.
Possible.
Now look, man. You just let him go and not pay the $25 million for the 5th-year option. You know what I mean?
Well, we still have the 4th year next year. Do you roll with it next year? Just keep him on the roster and just let him walk?
Yeah, I don't know. Right. Okay, that's a good point. I don't know. Again, I think you got to give this kid a real team. And even though Joe Douglas rebuilt the offensive line, 3 of those guys are hurt. So, and he even got some depth and they're playing. Who was our left tackle yesterday? Who was that? I don't even know who that was.
McDermott?
Right?
Yeah, McDermott. I had no idea that was going to be a, he played, I mean, once, he was the one that gave up the safety, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was his player off the left side.
Yeah. I mean, so it's like, even with that, he drafts Mims, he drafts Becton. Becton's playing lights out. And now he's hurt. Connor McGovern, the biggest free agent signing, he's hurt. Perryman, the other big free agent signing, he's hurt. Vincent Smith, the guy we wanted to bring in, bring up, he's hurt. Mims is hurt. Zuniga's hurt. It's like, I really would like to see Sam with an actual team around him, dude. I would, but I don't know if Joe Douglas is going to want. This goes back to that conspiracy baloney that I was talking about early in the season. It's like, the idea that Joe Douglas wanted Gase and wanted Darnold and wanted Jamal Adams, it's like he didn't want any of them. That could be. Now, I don't think Sam Darnold is that. And like I said, I never believed the conspiracy, but I just put it out there because it flew across my little desk, my figurative desk, and fucking beats my desk.
Now tell the passengers.
Anyway,
can you reiterate that conspiracy theory that you're kind of alluding to, if for anyone that wasn't here prior?
Yeah, well, it just boils down to like that Joe Douglas, when he came here, did not want Sam Darnold. He did not believe in Sam Darnold. That when he scouted him, he didn't think he was the elite prospect that some others did, and that he didn't want Adam Gase. Their friendship is not what everybody thinks it is. He does not believe in Adam Gase. Jamal Adams was another piece to that, that he didn't want what we had, and he was just going to start building the right way through the draft with young bodies. He was going to let these guys sink and just get rid of the whole thing, and then start with his own new coach and his own new quarterback, and pull in as much draft capital as he can in the meantime, while saying all the right things. Love these guys. Jamal's going to be a Jet for life. Adam is my best buddy. All those things. And he has a plan. The plan is that he's going to bring in his guys, which harkens back to the 6-year contract. He knew he would need time to do it. So I think basically that his evaluation period was legitimate, but he was like, those guys had one strike, so to speak. It was like, I'll give him a shot, but because I have to. But they proved me wrong, fine. But basically that he doesn't really want any of these guys that we have, and he's going to let them all sink.
Now, is Sam's lack of growth or lack of, I don't know if it's playmaking ability right now or lack of effectiveness, how much is that having to do with no starting running back, no top 3 wide receivers, no left tackle, no right tackle? Like, how much of that? And then on the defensive side, you have no Mosley. Williamson played his first game in a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I don't think he's sabotaging Darnold. I mean, number one, again, I don't necessarily believe all that, right? But that was how it got told to me. But the idea was, look at this one.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's a family show.
I know. It's funny that it's remained this clear behind me. There's mayhem all around me.
It's fascinating. Like, I just want to go back to your background. Your background's incredible.
Beautiful.
We were in the jungle the one time. We had alpacas behind you the other time. I really enjoy watching all these different backdrops.
Yeah, I'll be here for 4 days. I'm just camp. We have no electricity. I have a generator, right? We have no sewer, no water, no electricity. It's what's called boondocking. So we're boondocking here for 4 days. We're gonna I'm like 20 minutes from the Grand Canyon. We'll do that. Then we're going to Albuquerque to go get some meth from Heisenberg. And
some blue meth. Illuminati
yes,
goes,
right.
and thank you for the super chat. Goes, Green Bean makes his own green screens. Green Bean green
That's
screens.
right. I mean, green bean. Well, you know what's funny? Listen to this. I just did. You guys know. I don't know how many of the flight crew know, but I'm in the addiction field and I do other stuff for that. And I just got off of a live stream for that, and I didn't know until somebody texted or commented 3/4 into the show. Why does it say green bean under Kyle's face? Like, so I didn't change it from the studios that I managed. You know what I mean? So it said, I was like, shit. They kind of figured, like, the worlds are blending. You know what I mean?
They're like, oh no, everyone's coming together. They know who's who. My alternative, not alternative reality. My alter ego. That's the word I'm looking for, or set of words. But yeah, so Green Bean, how much of it do you think is the lack of weapons and offensive line and
Right, but then you look at some of those. That first pick six, he wasn't. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I was driving, trying to run a live stream as that happened, but that's that's an errant decision, man. So I think there's a lot of that. I think a lot of it has to do with it. I think he's making rookie mistakes because he's not been developed from a rookie. He's not being developed, so he's still stuck with the same issues. Although he did change the turnover stuff, the fumbling and all that. But as far as his footwork and making those trying to force the ball in type of decisions, he's still doing that stuff because nobody's coaching him up, nobody's developing him, right? So I think a lot of it has to do with that. Then you add all the the lack of weapons and O-line and all that stuff. I'm a big Sam defender, man. I believe in the kid, I really do. But I just don't know if Joe Douglas does. That was more the rumor. You know what I mean? It was like, well, Joe Douglas doesn't have the same patience for this fucking kid as a lot of other people do. He didn't really love him coming out.
Now, if you're Joe Douglas, if you're putting your GM hat on, and we're looking towards free agency next year, let's say the Jets do get the first pick. How does that affect how you spend in free agency? Are there going to be players that want to come play for the Jets knowing a rookie quarterback could be on the way in? Are the Jets going to have to kind of go back into that same mold of, hey, we just got to overpay players just to get talent here? What would you kind of plan for?
I might overpay for one or two. Like, trying to think about this, right? Number one, I would trade the number one pick. All right? I have a quarterback. I'm not going to use this opportunity on when I have that already. That's my thought. So I trade back. I get the haul of hauls to go with the super haul we got for Jamal Adams, and then I rebuild my team. I get wide receivers. You get 2 blue chip wide receivers, a blue chip edge rusher. You know what I mean? Like those kind of guys. And you start to build your team that way, and then you maybe bring in a Robinson, or you maybe bring in a Schuster. You know what I mean? Like, so you can do stuff, maybe another offensive lineman, maybe a guard, like a Thuney, you know what I mean? Somebody like that. You can spend money on those guys for a year or so. But I don't know. I wouldn't go for, I think, you just bring in draft capital and use it wisely. Don't waste your first round picks on defensive tackles and middle linebackers. Now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And safety.
100%. Guys, if you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering t-shirt or a Kalo hat or shirt, down in the description down below, there's a link to the Talking Jets podcast. It's this show, just in audio format. Click on the link down below, and all you have to do is follow. I'm going to pick one of the guys that are following to win a prize. I'm going to pick 2 people to win a prize tonight. So you have to follow the podcast, and then stay tuned till the end of the episode, and then I'll give something away at show's end. Guys, any more thoughts before we jump to some phone calls?
I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's pull up the Google Voice. I'm going to swap the topics for the phone number on the screen. Remember, guys, keep your questions short because Matt and Green Bean are not going to be able to hear you when you ask the question, and then I have to reiterate it to them. So make sure you keep your questions brief, and let's talk a little Jets football. Let's get some frustration out. Looks like we got Chris from Florida as our first caller.
Call from Chris from Florida.
Hey, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
Hey, man. I guess what I want to just first thing I want to say is Sam Darnold. I'm so sorry, bro. My question for you guys is really, if you could have put in Sam Darnold on his draft class on a different team instead of the Jets, what two teams would you have thought would have led him to a much quicker and more higher success rate? Imagining the coaches they had that year and the team they had around that year of his draft year. Thanks, man. Go Jets.
Ooh, good question. Good question. All right. So, Matt and Greenbean. Chris is saying, first and foremost, I'm so upset with the Jets and Sam Darnold. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If you go back to draft day when Sam was taken, what teams could Sam have gone to and really played better and grown into the quarterback that really shows his potential, looking at how those teams have kind of handled their quarterback situations? Now, Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Pick any 31 of the other teams in the NFL. Pick any one. I'm serious. I'm not. That's not even facetious. I'm not joking. Really, pick any single one. Every single team that took a quarterback in that draft, the Browns, they had a good skill position group. They had Jarvis Landry. They took Chubb. You bring in Kareem Hunt, but then they traded for Odell Beckham. So that's another piece you add in to the mix. And you had Njoku, who's already pretty solid. The Bills, like we said just a little while ago, they really did a great job building around their young quarterback. Cardinals, not great. But the Ravens completely revamped their offense for Lamar Jackson. They went from Joe Flacco, who really seems like right up the Adam Gase alleyway. He's just going to be ultra conservative, not take any shots, to this high-powered, high-flying offense with, running all over the place. Every single one of the teams, except for the Cardinals, who then moved on and took Kyler Murray and hired the right coach. Every single one of these teams put their young quarterback in a position to succeed, or at least have a shot. The Jets didn't do that at all. I said it earlier, but they made life impossible for Sam Darnold with what they've done around him. They had no offensive line for his first 2 years. They still have no playmakers around him after 3 years. It's an absolute joke. Pick any 31 out of a hat. They'd all be better than going to the New York Jets right now.
Green Bean, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt said exactly what I would have said. Any one of the teams. Now, maybe some are better than others, but even when you look at the Cardinals, look, they hired Vance Joseph, and they drafted Rosen with the number 9 overall pick. They saw that was a failure, and they cleaned the whole thing out. They got Klingberry, and they drafted Kyler Murray. Right? Am I not? Am I freezing?
Kingsbury. No. It's you're fine. It's the Klingberry. It's a Dingleberry.
I think.
Sorry.
What was I saying last week? I saw it later. I was saying Kittles. Remember Kerry Kittles?
Kittles.
The Nets. That's what I was saying. I was like, I meant Kittle the whole time.
Yeah, we know Kittles. What you're talking about. It's okay.
I know you guys humor this old fuck.
Green Bean's having a senior moment.
I think that if you look at the Cardinals, like what they've done for this kid, they traded for Hopkins, they drafted receivers, they were drafting offensive linemen all throughout the draft. They went out and signed Beachum late in free agency. So they're doing everything they can to make sure that they have depth at these positions that are valuable to the quarterback. Where the Jets, I mean, look, I like what Joe Douglas did. I think if these guys were playing, Becton and Mims, if Mims alone was playing, we might be talking about a different story. He's a dynamic type of receiver. But that all said, what led up to this is only this year. What about the last 2 years of Sam's career? We had the 31st and really the worst offensive line in the league last year, maybe ever. I don't know. I can't recall seeing an offensive line that was that bad. So any other team, if Sam Darnold was on the Steelers, if he was on the Ravens, if he was on the fucking Bills, he would be doing so much better than he is now. And the Browns too.
Yeah, when I look at the teams, at least the teams that drafted quarterbacks that year, I would say that the best situation that he could have been drafted into is probably the Ravens. I think that's a very strong, sturdy team. He was never going to make it to 31 or 32, whatever pick Lamar Jackson was taken at. the Bills would have been a much better spot. That was something that was feasible. If the Jets had stayed at 6, I think it's the Bills that wind up working out a deal with the Colts to get up to number 3. They were working their way up. I think they were at like 20 or something like that, and then they moved a tackle and draft picks to try and get up a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer, and they kept inching their way up. Now, I guess let's stem from that conversation, and we'll go to the phones in just another second. But what team, if Sam is traded, where would you like to see him go next offseason? Greenbean, I'll go to you first.
Well, what is the purpose of that? So, like, do you think I'm going to be rooting for him if he goes somewhere else?
Well, I think we'd all be rooting for him. I think you don't root for Sam Darnold if he goes elsewhere?
No, I want him to fail miserably. I don't want to be wrong.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't care. That's not how I'm wound, guys. I hate everybody who's not on the Jets. And then every game that I root for is in some way, shape, or form how it affects my team is how I root. Or past resentments. I'm a piece of shit. That's what it boils down to.
Very vindictive.
Yeah, that's how I enjoy the NFL. It's more based on hatred than love.
Well, that's the best part about sports. I feel like there needs to be more hate between teams. Like, I want to see like the Jets players hate the Patriot players. I want to see the Jet players hate the Dolphin players, the Bills players. Because right now everyone's so close because of social media and all this stuff. Yeah. It's like, it irks me.
That's how I grew up. These players hated each other, man. They were on teams for like their whole careers most of the time. Don't forget, I remember before free agency, these guys didn't go to different teams. They were on your team. And these players played against their division rivals twice a year for 10 years. They knew each other. They hated each other. And that's kind of stuck with me. I don't all this new signing jerseys stuff, and at the end of the game, that bothers me when I'm pissed off about a loss, and then 30 seconds later they're hugging and laughing in the middle of the field. I don't like that shit. I turn it off. I can't watch it. It bothers me.
So then let me get an answer from you. What team could you see Sam getting? Yeah, where are you sending Sam? You send him to an armpit?
Detroit.
You send him to the worst team possible.
You're evil.
I send everybody to Detroit.
What about you, Matt?
I think there's 2 places I could see him being moved to. You mentioned one before, the Saints, which I think would be perfect for him. I don't think Drew Brees is going to last too much longer anyway. But the other spot I could see is the Chicago Bears, because Mitch Trubisky stinks. They already benched him. And Nick Foles is nothing more than a backup quarterback. Like, this is not a long-term solution. He is not going to be their guy long-term. And do they have the draft capital to move up now finally after this trade, or still not?
They should, yeah. I think their last pick was given up last year, if I'm not mistaken. Now, it should be noted, I think they're 3-0 right now. So they're going to have to, they might be sitting 8-8 by the time this season's done. But who knows? Maybe better.
Right. So if they go, let's say the Bears go 7-9, which I don't think is that crazy to say. They're not going to bring back Nick Foles to play quarterback for them next year, I think. And at that point, it's like, okay, do you want to give up our future again to move up? And you traded for Khalil Mack the other time, or send away a 3rd or 4th round pick for Sam Darnold, who's going to get moved anyway. Maybe you do that.
Yeah, when I'm looking at teams, the Saints would be my first option, because the Saints are my NFC team. If I had to pick a team that I was, like, if I was not a diehard Jets fan and I was into football, it would be the Saints. I loved Reggie Bush coming out. Sean Payton, Drew Brees. I'm not the tallest guy, so watching Drew Brees sling the rock around makes me feel good. And my whole little Napoleon complex I got going on. I would say the other team that I'd be looking at, I had mentioned the Steelers, because I don't think Big Ben's got too much left in the tank. But I'll go another route. I'm going to say the Colts. The Colts would be a team that I would look at, a strong offensive line, wide receiving weapons, good young running back. Yeah, like that. To me, the Saints and the Colts. Now, if I'm the Jets, I'm trying to send him out of conference. So maybe the Bears is more of the attractive option here. But who knows? Maybe the NFL starts pulling their strings like the puppet masters they are, and they're like, oh, no, you're going to a team that's going to help the NFL make more money, and that's how it's going to be. I don't know. Greenbean, what do you think?
No, I like how you're talking. I mean, And you know what? It's funny. As you're talking, the idea of trading Sam Darnold and drafting Trevor Lawrence becomes real. Like when you think about it through that lens, it's like if you can get a second round pick for Sam Darnold, like let's say Joe Douglas is not into it. He's just like, I'm not doing this with this kid. He's damaged goods, and he ships him off to Chicago, or like you said, the Colts or the Steelers, the Saints. These teams have, older quarterbacks, or not the Bears, but these make sense for a young quarterback, and Frank Reich or Peyton, these guys are going to be great with a young quarterback. They're going to have the best chance with their organization, with those guys. Maybe it makes sense to move on. If you have the number one pick, get a second for Sam and just draft Trevor Lawrence and call it a day. The Cardinals aren't looking back at Josh Rosen, I'll tell you that.
No, they definitely aren't. And I think it's tough because I want to see Sam do well, but I don't want to see him do well because that means it's like, oh, we had him, he was right here, and we lost.
That's what I'm talking about, man. I can't live like that. I can't do that. There's no way I can live with myself.
It's just crushing.
I don't make any of the choices.
No, I know, but man, it would be so frustrating to wind up seeing him play well or play out of his mind. Now, I guess it's a different type of NFL at this point than it was back in 2000. Was it 10, 11, 12, whenever Sam Bradford, he was traded for 3 first-round pick, not at one time, but first-round pick sent to the Eagles, first-round pick goes to the, wherever else.
Yep.
Has Sam shown anything? Is there anything Sam can show that gets us a first-round pick? Because he's going to have that cheap fourth-year option. So you may want to move him prior to whenever that decision is that you have to make on that fifth-year option, I would think. Or maybe you just exercise the fifth-year option, because I think it's only guaranteed for injury anyway, so I think you could actually cut him at the end of the season next year if you really didn't want to hold on to him. Yeah. God, I don't know. I just don't know.
It's not that easy. It's really not.
No. This has a lot of layers, like an onion. Shrek would say, onions have layers, just like this Jets quarterback situation. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, let's jump back into the phone calls. Let's try to get some of your questions in there. Remember, guys, keep the questions short because I'm going to have to reiterate the questions to Green Bean and Matt. Guys, if you want your shot to win a hat, shirt, mug, or a Kalo shirt or hat, head down into the description down below. There is a link to the Talking Jets podcast. All you have to do is follow the podcast. I'm going to select one of those people at the end of the show. Now, also, while you're down there, make sure you follow Matt and Green Bean. Their information is all down below. Some great content creators. And yeah, on we go. All right, caller on the line.
Call from
Kyle.
Hey, what's up, Kyle? How you doing tonight?
I don't know. Getting tired of watching these Jets, man. I've been watching them for over 25 years, and I don't know. This season, I'm just trying not to renew my prescription for Xanax.
It's that bad. Oh, dude. I pity you. I really do. It's been rough. It's hard to turn on a game on Sundays and feel like you're not wasting time. I don't know if you saw my top 5 takeaways, but at the end of it, I'm just like, oh, man. The only reason I'm watching these games right now, aside from me just being a lunatic for the Jets, is just like, well, I got to make a recap video. I have to be able to watch it. Like, I can be doing so much better stuff on a Sunday than watching this team just abuse my well-being. What's on your mind, brother? What's your question?
Who do you think we should target in free agency? Yesterday, I was the one that said we should go after Bud Dupree and Melvin Ingram because, put them on the line with Quentin Williams, along, get Juju and Joe Thuney or Tooney, whatever it is. Those 4 players can really turn around the team, and that's not even counting the draft.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. All right, so good question there. What do you guys think about free agency, and how do you, if there's one player you could pick, he mentioned Bud Dupree or one of the edge rushers in free agency. If you could have just one free agent player, who's that player going to be? Matt, you first.
Wow, that's a really loaded question. I'm going to go Juju.
Green Bean, what about you?
I'm sorry, I hit mute. Well, edge rushers, I don't know who's really. I haven't looked at who's really the free agents yet of next year. I may prefer Robinson. He's on his last year, right?
Yeah, Robinson's on his last year. They're possibly talking contract extension there. He says he wants to stay there, but he also pulled the Bears off his social media.
He's pulling the Jamal tactic. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think let me say it positionally. I think I would really like to see a good wide receiver and an edge type of guy brought in here, and maybe even like one of those kind of strong journeyman, strong safety types to like as depth backup and everything. I don't know. Ashton Davis already getting hurt. McDougal's turd sausage. So I don't know, something like that. I think, but I would if it was one over everything. Wide receiver. I think.
Yeah, I think for me, Juju or Robinson has to be the pick. Anything to help the offensive line. My number 2 would be Thuney. I think Thuney's really the guy. With the edge rushers, we need an edge rusher in the worst way. So maybe a Judon or a Dupree or a Melvin Ingram or someone like that, someone that sort of shakes free. The issue is going to be the Jets are just so bad. Jets are so bad. We're going to have to overpay for guys. That's the biggest thing. Like, we should probably go after one high caliber player at some position. Now, that said, Jets are also going to have $80 million in cap space. There's going to be a lot of teams that don't have nearly that much cap space. So they could be cutting guys. There could be guys that we're not even seeing on this free agent list right now that could be options for us come next spring. So it could look totally different. Jets are going to be sitting in a very advantageous situation for finding a new head coach and just making some moves in general. I think having the uncertainty right now with free agency in terms of like the players coming to the Jets, like, okay, who's their quarterback going to be? Is it going to be Sam Darnold? Am I coming here to play with him, or am I coming here to play with a rookie? Where am I in my career right now? Am I trying to just cash out? Like Thuney being 29, he might just be like, hey, I'm just going for the biggest deal ever, and just, that's what I want to do. Juju might be in the prime of his career. He might be like, hey, I want to win, and maybe he doesn't believe in Sam. He got to play with Sam prior to that, so there's some knowledge there. There's a lot of weird stuff that could happen. A lot of weird stuff. But helping the offense, I think, is the main takeaway. If you can get an edge rusher, so Melvin Ingram's going to be 32. He's a little bit longer in the tooth. Maybe that's an option that you could go with. I like the idea of bringing in if I could bring in 2 lower priced, older, good, I don't want to say washed up, but like guys that are edge rushers that are looking to prove it and they want a lot of playing time. That's probably the demographic I'm looking at to target while trying to influx this team with a ton of young depth. Like, I think edge rusher should be one of the first round picks that the Jets have this year. The other should be a wide receiver, and then the second round you're probably taking a cornerback, a guard, something of that nature. Who knows? We'll see. All right, let's go to the phones.
Is Mosley. I'm sorry.
Oh, go on. No, let's talk about this. I'm down to talk about this. I'm so concerned.
Yeah, is he ever going to play for us again? Like, how are we going to find a solution to that one? Like, what is this? He's not coming back to this mess.
No, I said this to Matt before. I was like, is he just going to opt out and, like, retire? Like, could he just say, like, I'm done. Like, I made enough money the last 2 years. Like, all right. Or is he coming back and is he actually going to play well for the New York Jets? It's going to be, like, 2 years removed since we've seen him. We saw what happened to 1 year off from Bell, looks like. Now, you think you want to pay Mosley $17 million after missing 2 years? Yikes.
Yikes. What a great word to use. I can't even, like, number one, he seems vindicated. You know what I mean? Obviously, we might be doing a little bit better if he was on the team, but it's like, oh, thank God I'm not a part of this mess. You know what I mean? And he got $10 million not to play for us. So I don't know. It's like one of those things, like, and I got inspired by this by one of the comments. It was just, or a few of the comments actually. It's like, more. I think the way one of the commenters said it, I wish I remembered your name. I'm sorry, but it said, oh, there he is, Grant Norris. He said, no more cash out guys. And like, that's the thing, when you start getting into that mindset of overpaying guys to come to a team, if we end up being crappy, dude, they check out. They're not going to get injured for this team. They're not going to play. They're going to get a turf toe or hurt a finger, and they're not going to play anymore. And that's the danger of that, which is why I like what Joe Douglas is doing. He's not bringing in these guys. Like, think about it. If he gets to choose his coach now, and this whole garbagey, we all knew it. Us three on this board and most of the commenters knew when Adam Gase was hired, that was the wrong choice by what was out there. Matt Rule and McCarthy were sitting there, and both of them wanted to come here, and we chose Adam Gase. We knew it was the wrong decision. A year and 4 games into it, we let him go. Okay, at least you didn't exacerbate it and keep him another year or two. Great, fine. You acknowledge the mistake and move on. Joe Douglas brings in a legitimate head coaching candidate that is going to be attractive to people. And then he has 3 number 1 picks, or however he does this, and he's, you know what I mean? Then people can start, okay, well, this guy Joe Douglas knows what he's doing, and you know what I mean. Then it can be more attractive. But I think this year we're in danger of not having that really established yet. You know what I mean? So I think cash out guys are going to be looking to come here.
Yeah, it's been the Jets' MO the last 20 years, 25 years. You're paying guys to just retire. That's what it is. They're like, oh, you know what, Tremaine Johnson, I'll sign a huge contract with the Jets, and then I'll just pack it in. Darrelle Revis, his last contract with the Jets. All these players that we just spend tons of money on, there's no reason for the Jets to go out and drop that kind of money unless you're bringing in pieces that are going to be able to help us long term. Long term. I'm saying Juju. I'm saying, Thuney, just because I feel like offensive linemen are built a little differently. Now, does he look as good? I thought McGovern was going to be really good. He's playing terribly. I'm hoping it's like the injury and just not gelling right now, because he is not as advertised from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think the guards are liable. On his right side, Van Roten's been a liability, man.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I've been pleasantly surprised with Alex Lewis, and I'm hoping if you can get a Thuney and slide Alex Lewis to the right-hand side, is Alex Lewis looking this good because he's next to Becton, or is he looking this good because he's actually gotten better and he's, worthy of playing the right side, next to Fant?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Alex Lewis is a good answer, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be fun to see Clark come in for Van Roten. You know what I mean?
I think that's happening. Agree.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, that's definitely going to happen at some point. I agree.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to get that. The young guys, that's really it. The Jets have like an influx of talent that Joe Douglas drafted, and you're talking Becton's hurt right now. He's going to be. I think it sounds like he's going to play Thursday, or that he could play Thursday. Then you have Mims is out. You have Zuniga out. You have Hall out. You have Cameron out. It's like all these guys that we were hoping to have some type of impact, or just not getting the playing time. So my biggest concern with Clark, I think, is just not having the practice time to be able to show it. But I think if you get later in the season, they're going to be like, all right, let's see what we have in some of these players, rather than just rolling into year 2 when you might have a guard or you might have a starting cornerback. I think you're still probably going to have to take some of these players high over the course of the next 2 years, whether it's this draft or next year's draft. I would like this draft to be solely focused on offense, like almost entirely. Like, we need an edge rusher, so that would probably be the one position that I would go for. And then maybe the next year you complement that with a cornerback, and maybe it's a linebacker or something you have to take next year. I don't know. We got 3 minutes left in the stream, guys. We have 338 people in here. We only have 112 likes. So if you want to see Adam Gase fired, if you really want to see Adam Gase fired, we should see this like bar jump all the way up. So I want to see it. I'm sure we can get it over 200. I know we can get it over 200. I know there's 332 people in here that don't want to see Adam Gase here. So if you don't like Adam Gase, you want to see him canned, hit the like button. It helps support the channel, helps support the show, and it helps when people tune into this later on. They can see that the show is worth hanging around and listening to. So guys, I said I was going to raffle off a shirt at the end of the show. So let's go over to the podcast and let's select a few. We're going to pick 2 players, or two people. And you guys are going to reach out to me via Instagram. So if we say your name on the podcast, reach out to me on Instagram with just, your username or whatever from that you had to make to follow. So, Matt, give me a number 1 through 10.
5.
All right. So The winner of the, let's see, we're going to do a Kalo shirt first. The winner of the Kalo shirt is Oscar OSKAR 365. You're going to be the winner of the Kalo shirt. And Green Bean, give me a number 1 through 10, not 5. 1. Gabe T.
The first overall pick.
Ooh, the first overall pick has a picture of Sam Darnold as his icon. Oh, Jesus Christmas. Gabe T, you're going to win a Just End the Suffering shirt from the Jets Talk store. Guys, if you do want to get this shirt, www.jetstalk.com. That is the website to get your hands on one of these. But that is the end of our live stream. Let's go around the panel a little bit and let's say some closing statements. Any last words we have for the crowd out there? Green Bean, any last words?
Yeah, I wanted to thank everybody who stopped by the live stream as I was literally driving from Salt Lake City, and we made it about midway of the second quarter and I lost service. So thanks for coming by. We're doing it again this Thursday night for the game. Stop by Jet Nation's YouTube channel and hang out with us.
Matt, any last words for the panel tonight?
4 days. 4 more days of Adam Gase, and that should be it. We should all be free in 4 days.
Yeah, I'm thinking Adam Gase is gone Friday morning. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to start my weekend the right way. If Adam Gase gets fired Friday, I'm going to shotgun a beer. Just to be like, that'll be my yes, we got rid of him. And I probably have work at some point that day. I have to check what my schedule is, so that's probably not bueno. It might have to be an after work specialty there. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Thank you for flying. As always, follow these great creators down below in the description down below. We'll be back here next Tuesday. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week, Tuesday, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Guys, this is Jets Talk signing off. Jets.